Growth is supposed to be the fun part. You tell yourself that once it takes off, once the clients are coming and the revenue's real, it'll all finally feel good. But instead, all of the stuff you bootstrapped and you duct-taped together, the systems that only hold because you're the one holding them, well, growth doesn't hide that. It makes you feel it all the same. And that's not necessarily a sign that it's not working or that you did anything wrong. That duct tape got you there. It's just not built to take you even further. But the good news is that part is fixable, and it's exactly what we're going to get into today. Welcome back to the table, the podcast where we talk about all the things you'd actually want to bring up with a really good dinner party with all of your founder friends, marketing strategy, and building a business that works in your life and not just on the side. I'm Dani. I'm the founder of Mise en Plan, and I am your host. And this season, we are talking all about navigating change, not change for its own sake, but change based on what is actually shifting in the world around us and how the smartest founders are actually adapting to how they build and run their businesses because of it. And I could not have picked a better person to get into this with, and I am so excited to introduce to you Amanda Laurent, the founder of Sonder North Co. Amanda, welcome to the table. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody a little bit about you before we dig in. Amanda is the founder of Sonder North, a boutique operations consulting firm for founders who feel like internal friction is holding them back. Before starting Sonder North, she spent over a decade in financial services in the corporate world, ending as a senior VP leading operations and strategy. And her work is honestly really refreshingly simple to describe. She finds what's creating friction in a business and gets rid of it, so founders can actually grow and operate with that ease that we all thought we were going to have when we first started our businesses, and have them step back from what they've built, but by learning to lead it without carrying every single decision themselves, which, if you ask me, is exactly the conversation so many of us need right now, and why I was so excited to invite her here to join me. Welcome. I'm so thrilled you're here.
Yeah. I think we're going to have a great conversation.
I'm so excited. Every time we chat, it is always a really good one. So this is going to be a really great episode. And I know that you have so many really exciting and interesting perspectives to share that I know I hadn't thought about, and I'm really excited to hear them from you.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I know that I warned you that before we get to any of the good stuff, though, the rule around here is that this is a dinner party first and foremost. And so I'm curious, so what would you bring to the proverbial table? What's your favorite thing to bring to a dinner party?
I love a good dinner party. I'm happy to join your dinner party. So I would bring flowers and my favorite summer wine, probably. I like to bring things that mean a lot to me and are a reflection of myself. So I would probably bring my favorite summer wine is a nice Albarino right now. It's very light. It's very refreshing. And then I would probably throw in something local. So since I'm in the Tahoe area, we have some really good like Tahoe toffee, or I have a special, like one of my favorite candle companies is here. So I'd probably bring that over for you because I feel like you should always bring something for the host.
Well, that's so sweet. I love little local gifts. I think they're just so sweet. And not only that, you're usually supporting a small business at the same time. And I think that's always a great thing to do. And I'm not going to lie, an Albarino is also my favorite wine. And I'm so excited that somebody else actually even knows what it is, because not always. Not always. All right. Well, let's get into it. And one of the big questions that I'm actually excited to hear your perspective on, because it's something that I've been dealing with as well, is you and I both came from over a decade in corporate, with you working in some of the most corporate of corporate industries, financial services, and some of the biggest companies out there before you started Sonder North. And I say all the time that we do not talk enough about what it's like to go from corporate to entrepreneurship, because it is a completely different thing. And I'm curious, what has surprised you the most from moving from that corporate environment to running your own operations in your own company?
Yeah, this is such a good question. Two things came to mind for this. Is the first one is I didn't really have anybody to check my work anymore, and not even from a term of, is this correct, but more like validating, am I on the right path or anything like that. There wasn't a management team reviewing what I had built before it went out. So I really had to learn to trust my gut. And that has been both hard and it's been freeing in a way. I've had to build my own team of advisors behind the scenes to help me, gut check some of that stuff as a founder without having kind of like an integrated, here are the people that you're going to be reporting to who will do that for you within corporate America. So I've had to build that on my own. Another thing is, I'm sure that you felt this in corporate America too, but whenever there were challenges or opportunities or anything like that that presented itself, it took a long time to move that corporate ship. Versus now, if there's a challenge or if there's an innovation or something like that that you want to build into your business, you can pivot fast. So you could try something out as a business owner. If something's not working, you pivot. And I've seen a lot in a big organization, good ideas die in the red tape, basically. And so now I'm able to take those pivots and those movements to better serve my clients, and the outside perspective that I don't have anymore, to support my clients, or the outside perspective that I have had to build for myself is exactly what I am for my clients right now. And then the pivot freedom is the adaptability that I help build into my own business and then also into their businesses too.
I think you're so right that we're all, while it is nice to be able to have like 100% executive freedom to make decisions within your organization, I think so many of us are so close to our own stuff that we get caught in our own brains when it comes to doing things, even when it is the one thing that we specialize in. I often say, like, I wish I had a me for me because I need someone sometimes to just like tell me my idea is okay, validate that it's legit. Do you ever find that in your own just op stuff? You're like, you know what? I just wish someone would help me figure out like a different way or just like
Gosh.
validate.
Yes. I mean, and it's hard because you have to learn to trust your own voice as an owner, and you have to learn that there's noise that comes through too from what you consume, from the people that you talk with, and you have to really learn to decipher what works for you as a business owner and what else is just can be left to the side. So it's a lot of internal growth that happens as well, which I think is both challenging and exciting.
100%. Of course, the theme of this season is about change and how navigating change and change is upon us. I'm curious, and you mentioned that, when something happened, you were able to pivot. And now, I guess, what have you been seeing happening in the wild amongst your clients and just founders? And what is affecting them the most when it comes to things that have changed and shifted that they need to pivot to or pivot around?
Yeah. Well, I think that you can't go anywhere without hearing about AI, And so I think that that's what I'm seeing the most is business owners are trying to figure out if they're behind the ball with implementing AI. How do they implement AI? What do they do when it comes to implementing it in their business? So I feel like right now what I'm seeing business owners do is they're wondering if they need to race to automate everything. And I think that that's the wrong take for owners to do. Because if you automate everything, you might be automating something that's not working in your business. And if you automate a mess, you're just getting a faster mess, basically. So I would say that there are a few gut checks that business owners can take when it comes to navigating this part of change in their business, where they can ask themselves, why do we need to automate this? What changes if we do automate this? And does this step even need to exist? So that's, getting clear on your business, that clarity first, and then you can speed up there with the change.
That's really helpful. I think it's so easy to fall into the trap because I know I am constantly being bombarded by here's how to hire 27 AI assistants and just like program them into Claude and have them do all your work for you, and how to connect your MCPs to Cloud and have things automate and just all talk to each other. But to your point, not having the right foundation is, and it kind of gets back to that duct tape
Yeah.
analogy that I made. It's just like, you're like, all right, well, we'll strap this on now just to see if we can give me a little bit more time and automate and save me time somewhere else. And that's not always the case, because sometimes it's just like you're just either further taping stuff or you're digging yourself a hole that could
Yeah.
get a lot harder to get out of.
And, I've experienced it too as a business owner, especially as AI has rolled out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. This can be automated over here. I don't have to worry about it. But then if I implement something and try and forget about it, then things might go a little bit haywire. So I think part of it is understanding too exactly what
Yeah.
you're trying to implement and what the steps are that will be taken without you there in a way, and being okay with that. And learning and growing from it too.
Yeah.
It's challenging, but it's definitely doable.
I think this is a good time to do a PSA for anybody that has anything automated, whether that's your email workflows, your welcome series, your anything you have. If you have anything set up to fire automatically, whether it's AI or not, now is always a good time for you to go and check and make sure those still say what you want them to say and they still work right.
Yes. Agreed.
So, in marketing, you got to do that. But in operations, you got to do that too, because your standard operating procedures may have changed and you never know when something is no longer saying what you want it to say. So, that's my PSA for the day, because we all forget it exists when it's sitting out there on the side. Is there anything that you've seen happen in the world that you feel like is like, how has AI actually helped people operate differently and operate better than they have?
I mean, it has played an incredible role in helping businesses become more efficient. A lot of what I've worked with clients in the past on is figuring out where they need to be involved with their business, where they need to be making decisions day in and day out, whether it's like on the strategy side, the bigger planning side of their business, or their day to day operations. But then what can we delegate out to somebody else? What can we automate and what can we eliminate? And going through, that's part of one of my routines with clients, is to go through some of those tasks to give clients a little bit more capacity. So AI definitely plays a role in that automation, in that delegation part of it. If it's set up right and if the right things are automated, and if the business owner understands exactly what is automated, then it can free up a lot of time for business owners to be able to focus on that next level of their business, to step into what I call the CEO energy, to get to that strategy level of their business and to move to that next level of whatever that might look like for them. I definitely think that AI focusing on the smaller operational day-to-day tasks of the business can help in so many ways, especially like marketing, the client experience, Um, Actually, one thing that I'm seeing now where business owners are getting stuck is responding to clients. We live in this
Mm.
day and age where we expect instant responses. We expect that if we go online and we book an appointment, that it's booked. We get a confirmation. We understand our next steps. So if you're calling a business and you're just going to voicemail and they're taking 2 days to get back to you, that's business lost. So that's something that I think the AI can come in and help with, keeping that business, keeping that revenue in-house.
Absolutely. I think that slow response time is such a killer, because if people are reaching out to you and they intend to buy and they're reaching out to two or three people and someone else responds before you, they're going to end up getting the business because they probably already said yes before you ever responded. And so I guess that leads me to a really good question, or just what I think is a good question because I'm curious to know, is at what point do you see founders really start to wobble? Like, where is that duct tape starting to peel apart? Like, where are the wheels starting to fly off of the bus? What have you seen as being either a catalyst for that happening or a point in time in their business where it just becomes inexcusable or unworkable the way they have things now?
Yeah. It's usually one of two things is what I see. The only thing constant in life is change. And the wobbling that I see from founders could be either external. So whether that's a market shift happening that's asking them to change in their business, it could be, the entire market, it could be industry specific, or it's internal. They might have outgrown the business that they've built. Their systems might not be able to keep up with the demand that they have for their business, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. So I think that this is both of those signs are signs that it's not that anything's broken, but it's that the structure was built for a smaller version of their business. And the wobble is definitely a signal that they're evolving past their setup. So they're outgrowing it. So, and I'm happy, I'd love to share a story with you about that from
Yes,
my
please.
experience. Yeah, I mean, back when early in my career, I spent a good chunk of my time working with clients directly. And from that, I moved into a strategy and operations role where I was handed a massive project to help redesign the flow of my old role, but on a national level, to go through because this part of the organization was growing and growing so fast. And when leadership would see that there were gaps, they would bolt on new systems, bolt on new processes, but they wouldn't turn the old systems off or anything like that. So what happened was everything had friction. Nothing flowed. There was that wobble that was happening within the business. Morale was low, teammates were leaving, clients were unhappy, and these were ultra high net worth clients that we were working with. So a drop ball there was actually really expensive. People were being trained by the person next to them on the old systems, not the new ones. And they just basically built their workarounds just to survive. And I see that happen too within business owners within their teams as well. So what I did was I got really clear first on what the layout looked like. I talked with the executives about their business goals, their initiatives, what they were being held to standards for within the organization. We talked to the people actually doing the role to figure out what it feels like to do this role. And then we mapped the client journey because that's what I'm really passionate about is what the clients experience. We mapped that from start to finish. And then we didn't add any other solution. We actually did the opposite. We started subtracting. We started streamlining everything, every process that these associates would go through step by step. And then we rolled it out on a national level. So everyone was being trained the same way, using the same systems, redundancies were reduced. And the shift was actually the best part. It was that the confidence went back up for the teammates, morale went back up, and everything felt just more easeful. Even though that was in a corporate, large organization environment, I see that within smaller businesses. I work with that with clients. You might have 3 platforms, not 15. It might be you and a couple contractors, but it's just at a different scale. You still have that you feel that wobble, you feel that friction, and it's better to look at the whole picture and then subtract from there.
That's so important. I mean, that's a big part of what I do too. It's like, let's unpack all the boxes and see what's out there so that when we go to repack the boxes, they're in all the right, in as efficient a way as possible, but also make sense for you. And we don't have the boxes we don't need. And I think there's a phrase, especially in the technology, this, as you said, all the different systems and different technologies, there's a phrase legacy debt, right? I think legacy debt is such a thing for technology, but it's also a thing for systems and processes. I think, and I come across this a lot in my day to day, but this is how we've always done it. I
Oh, yeah.
think some of the most dangerous words in any organization is like, well, that's how we've always done it. That doesn't mean that's the right way, and it doesn't mean that it's the best way for you moving forward. Maybe it worked before, it probably wasn't even the best way before, but it's just how you did it. And so how this is kind of a two-pronged question because like I think there is that element of just being afraid of saying like, well, this is how I've always done it, but combined with the founders who are at that point where they know they need to let go, but this is their baby. This is like I've built this thing from the ground up and I I don't want to let go. I feel valued and important when I am required in every aspect of this process. And this process is the way that I set it up over the last, however many years. How do you handle those conversations and expectation setting when it comes to unpacking those boxes and figuring out what the next new is for that org while managing the egos, if you will, of those who's founded the business?
That's actually the word that came to mind too, is, the reason why it's so challenging for businesses and business owners to make these changes, even when they feel the pain, is because of ego and trust. This is their baby. This is our babies. It's hard building a business. And we've spent time and energy talking with clients and making changes and developing something that is impacting people, making a difference in the world. So when you get to an inflection point like that, I think that having a little bit of, maybe trust, I don't want to say issues, but like trust challenges, and ego coming into play is very natural. And it'd be weird if it wasn't that way. I think that a lot of business owners feel that if you want it done right, you do it yourself. And so for me, when I face that with business owners, I feel like when business owners make themselves indispensable, they're basically building themselves a cage inside their own business. And the way to get around that is you handhold a little bit. You take the pain, once the pain is outweighing the effort of them making a change, then they'll start loosening their grip. And you don't have to hand it all over all at once. You can step back incrementally. I would say take one process and start laying that out. Start laying out what that process looks like and see if you can slowly or transition that to somebody else or something else that can help you take that off. And then once you start building that trust muscle, then you can start moving on to more processes and more processes. And I actually feel like this is the part that I love doing with you in our businesses is I feel like we're two halves of the same thing where we help clients when they feel that inflection point and feel that change. So you help people from in the internal side, the person, how they show up, and I take it from the business, the system side. So do you see it that way too?
100%. I think there's the aspect of like something's different and I want to be doing something different. And those are the people that I help. It's like whether it's a different offer or a different ideal client or a different thing, that's the like, how do I position what I do and make sure it's visible and resonates with the outside world and who I want it to. But then there's the inside of like, okay, well, now what does that mean in terms of how do I make sure my processes and my systems are in place, so I can make sure that I'm having that client experience, that onboarding experience, which is a lot of what you do, but like, how do I optimize the inside for how I like to work now and how I like to run my business now, so that there's a match between the inside and the outside. 100%.
Well, and how do you find, when people go through change, it's hard too because it takes a lot of mental effort, emotional effort. There's a lot of internal things that happen. So how do you navigate it when somebody is ready for change and to where it sticks for them?
Mhm. So there's a very interesting saying that we would say all the time because it's true for marketing messaging, but also for ourselves. And that is that the pain of same always has to be greater than the pain of change.
Oh, I
And
love that.
so every decision that someone makes is a decision of change. Every new action that someone takes is a new action that you're taking. And so when it comes to managing that shift. A lot of people come to me when they've already started feeling that and they're like, you know what, I got to do something different. So I am actually mostly helping them navigate that pain of saying being greater than the pain of change for their ideal clients and figuring out like, okay, well, what is that pain? Um, and that was actually a question that I had for you. What are those elements of pain? Like, how do people know? Like, because I think we're all, and this is me included, it is even my clients, a lot of times of like, this has been going on for way too long. I didn't realize that like I was not having growth because I was so stuck in being like, this is how my message is, this is what I'm offering, this is who I'm talking to. But those people become different and different and different and shift away. And so we're all lobsters boiling in a pot, not knowing that things are boiling around us. And so I'm sure people are listening to this and being like, well, X, Y, and Z is fine, whether it's my messaging or whether it's how I have my onboarding. Maybe I'm like annoyed by it, but like the thought of having to go in and redo everything is just too much. So I think we also just become very comfortable being uncomfortable in the circumstances that we're in. And so I'm curious to hear from you, what are those markers that you see defining pain? Like, where should people be like, oh, yeah, I know you had a little bit of a litmus test earlier, but like, yeah, oh, yeah, no, I'm feeling that.
Mhm.
You're right. Like, what are the things that they're just dealing with as status quo that could be infinitely better?
Yeah. Um, I I'll speak to it from my own experience as well with making change. Going from being in corporate America to a business owner is a huge change. So I'll speak to it from that, but then I'll also speak to it from what I see business owners feeling. The way that I have felt, the way that I have noticed that change is coming, it's inevitable, is when you feel it in your body. Something doesn't feel right, with the situation that you're in. Um, and then, it's time for change. And that's when the pain is outweighing staying the same, to your point. For business owners, I truly believe that owning a business should be joyful. I think it should be something that you enjoy going to day in and day out. It shouldn't be a cage that you've built around yourself. You shouldn't build yourself your own 9 to 5. Like, you are impacting so many different lives. Come back to I think that business owners need, when they're losing their why of what they're doing, that's a signal that something needs to change. It should light you up, and your clients should be lit up by it too. So I think that there are all these different signals within the business as far as any place that feels frustration, feels friction, um, just doesn't feel good.
I love that. I am curious to hear, have you seen any, aside from AI, any new trends in systems design or operations, or especially for the small, medium sized businesses that you think are worth talking about that might inspire people to say, like, oh, you know what? Like, changing my systems doesn't mean that I now have to get and download a whole new Salesforce platform and onboard that. If there's a founder out there who knows that, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable, but I'm not ready to dive all in, what is something that they can do next week to help them at least address 1-2% of whether it's through the bottleneck or whether it's an optimization? Like, what is something that they can do on their own that's not completely overwhelming but has impact?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that they could do that could have a huge impact on their business. It's not sexy, but it's process documentation. We we might we might know it as standard operating procedures. I even had a client actually tell me to find a better name with it for it than SOPs, because it was like,
Stop.
yeah. But it's basically, your process is the blueprint for what your business does. And that is the gateway into being able to train new people in your business, being able to hand off anything in your business. So if a business owner, if you want capacity, you start there. If you want to know what to automate, you start there. I would say go in and pick one thing that you do day in and day out and just start writing down, what is the system that I use? Where do I go to access it? Literally every single detail about it. What do I say to clients when this thing comes in, or how do I respond about this question? Like, take a process from start to finish and fill in the gaps. And that will show you what's hiding in there, where redundancies might be, where opportunities might be. But having a process documented is the best thing that a business owner could do for themselves, for their team, for their business's future.
100%. And encouraging your team to do that too. I think, especially in smaller businesses, but big ones too, there is an underappreciation of institutional knowledge and how detrimental it can be, because we're all transient. We all have free will. We won't necessarily be somewhere always, but capturing the institutional knowledge from your employees, especially if you're like, we have one person in marketing and one person in sales and one person in the tech team, encouraging them to do the same. Because if they leave, then what?
Then you start over. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and as a business owner, you might think like this is how the sales process works. But I think that's such a great suggestion, is to have the person doing the job be the one to note down what they do, because maybe you think that this is how this works, but the salesperson does it a different way. Maybe it's more efficient. Maybe they can figure out ways to make it better. This is their day to day.
Absolutely. Because you feel like, wow, they're really good at sales, because they made their own little micro improvements and solutions to solve for gaps that they may have had in technology or what have you. There's always something. So always find out how they're doing it.
One of the best ways I think that people could do it is actually just observing. Go and observe your salesperson just day to day and just write down what they're doing. You can ask them questions along the way, but that way you're actually capturing what they're actually doing.
Yes. And you don't have to make them feel like you're being Big Brother. Like, you're just curious on what it is that they do well and how they do it well and why they do it so well. Because I know having someone, I would never click on the right thing if someone was watching me over my shoulder. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I do that all the time. Someone's like, can you do a demo of this? I'm like, oh, I don't know where it is. I use this every day. I'm perfectly fine. It's like I can't type when someone's watching. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I think one more question for you is, we've talked a lot about like what it feels like when it's wrong. And you mentioned like business should be joyful, but if someone can actually get this right and figure out the right systems that make sense for them where they are right now, but also starting to plan for a bit in the future when the business can actually run without them in every single room, what does that day to day actually feel like? What have you been hearing from your clients who have successfully been through it and been like, oh, this is worth it?
I love this. This is actually what my business is here for. Why I'm doing what I'm doing is because of this result, this feeling, this what you just did. It's the exhale is what I want clients to feel. That's what I've experienced with working with my clients. It's businesses stepping in, it's owners being able to step into that real CEO energy. They have the room to plan bigger things instead of firefighting the small ones. They can take a vacation and trust that things are going to run the way that they built it and the way that they want it while they're gone. It's that feeling of ease that they built themselves, and they set it up themselves to be that way once they have this stuff in place. And it's the best. I love when we can get business owners there.
Actually turn off that cell phone when you're on the beach in Mexico with your family.
Imagine. Yeah.
What a dream. What a dream. Oh my gosh. Well, I could keep Amanda here all day, but I do want to leave you with the thing that's really been sticking with me. And that is just that, business is hard. And the things that we've done to get it to where we are right now is not, the feelings of it being hard is not about it necessarily being a lack of effort or lack of talent. And so if people are feeling stuck, it's not necessarily you. It just means that A, you've been too close to it. And so you don't see where there's opportunity of improvement, where there always is opportunity of improvement, and that we need to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I think, we really embrace that by starting businesses, but there's that our next level of business is almost like starting a whole new business. It's a completely new thing sometimes. And I think we just need to trust ourselves, and we need to trust that we've hired the right team around us, and that we just might need a little bit of help, not by working harder, but by working a lot smarter with how we're approaching it, and stepping away and having that vacation that you so deserve. And so just clear what's in the way, unpack those boxes, and figure out what the best organization looks like for where you want to go, and not necessarily where you've been, so that you can actually step into your CEO energy and do as you set out to do. So thank you, Amanda, for being here and so being so generous with sharing how you think about all of this. I always love our conversations because they turn into just great thought fests. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a joy.
Yes, you're welcome. And Amanda, if someone wanted to learn more about you or about what they can be doing to improve their business operations, where should they look for you? Where can they find you?
My website, sondernorth.com, or come find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. So I'm Amanda St. Laurent, PMP on LinkedIn, and Sonder North Co on Instagram. So
Amazing.
come find me there.
Great. And do you have anything that can help get people started on this journey and start asking themselves some of the questions and seeing if, operations optimization is something that they should be thinking about for themselves?
On my website, there I have a free guide. It's called the Execution Bridge, and it helps you figure out exactly where your friction is. There's a scorecard on there that you can take. It takes 5-10 minutes maybe to work through it, but it helps give you a plan of where to start. And then if you are wanting to dig in a little bit more with me, I have something called a Clarity Intensive, and it's 90 minutes. We go deep on your business, and you walk out with a real action plan that you can start that week, plus 2 weeks of support while you implement it. So you can find that at clarity.sondernorth.com.
Amazing. And we will have all of those links in the show notes, so you don't have to go digging. But again, Amanda, thank you so much for being here. This has been great. And this whole season, this podcast is all about navigating change as a founder, because we are just feeling change from every direction, and it felt like a really prescient thing for us to talk about. And so I have a lot of really incredible guests with hot perspectives on basically every facet of entrepreneurship. So if this one got you thinking about your business or about someone else, please share with another founder that might be feeling the same kind of stuck that you are. So make sure you hit subscribe on Spotify or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. And that is it for today. See you next time. And as always, I will save you a seat.